Hey, Crossroads, welcome to Going Deeper. Kevin and I are here today, and we are taking the message from Sunday both of us got to preach, and we're going to go a little deeper. We're going to ask some questions, maybe prompt some discussion for you. It was an interesting sermon this week. Is God really sending anyone to hell?
Right.
And I know initially you weren't supposed to preach this one.
Right.
And so how were you feeling when you got the call like you got to preach on hell?
Initially I was thinking this was Reid's plan here. I could see what he, but you still had to preach the message, so you didn't really get off scot free here.
I did
You
not.
still had to preach
I
on
did.
hell
I
too.
did.
So
So here's what I was thinking. What's something that you learned during the preparation of the message? We looked at Luke 16, this parable of the rich man and Lazarus. What's something that you learned that was meaningful to you? And maybe I'll share the same. And then, is there anything that didn't make it into the message that you'd want to share? Because there's always something that's you're like, I probably don't have time for that. So, what did
yeah,
you learn first?
I love the C.S. Lewis quote that I think we both used, and I've heard that before, but I don't know. Just praying through that over the last couple weeks, God really opened my eyes up about that. That the doors of hell are locked from the inside, and there's this idea that God doesn't send people to hell. People choose.
Yeah.
They make a decision to live apart from Him, and that just changes the
Yeah.
perspective of hell. And it's just it's not this idea that God's kind of sitting up there, this cosmic judge, trying to force people into this terrible place. It's like
Yeah.
people make this decision. I use the example of recovery, how folks that are in recovery are so stuck and they're trapped, but they've trapped themselves, and it's like the door is locked from the inside. They've made a decision.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was kind of a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Well, and I think just to follow up on that, that I talked about how it in many ways is like recovery and addiction, where there's disintegration, there is isolation, and there's denial,
Right.
about that, and that's all a part of that process that may not look terrible at the beginning, being self-centered and that kind of thing, but looks terrible after a million years.
Right.
And I love that you said some people I think have this picture of hell as like this cauldron, and people are trying to get out, and God's like, no, you stay in there,
Kicking you down.
and that's not it at all.
Right.
It is this finally relenting of people who have chosen over and over again to reject God. One thing that I learned was just the interesting way that was the only person that Jesus ever named in a parable, and that the name Lazarus means the one whom God helps,
Yeah.
and how interesting that was given his status on earth.
Yeah.
Like, because you would go like, well, who needs help like that? If that's what help looks like,
Right.
I'm not sure I would sign up for it. And so that was something new that I learned. I'll tell you one thing that didn't make it in for me
Okay.
was
This is always fun, by the way.
the idea that fear of hell will never present or never produce the kind of receiving of grace that God offers. So, in other words, that this is why I didn't put it in because it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
If the problem is complete self-centeredness,
Right.
and the reason that I am afraid is because I want to help myself,
Right.
that will never lead in the direction of what God is offering.
Right.
And so even the idea of fear of hell is not something that produces the change that Jesus was talking about.
Yeah. That actually made it into my sermon.
It did?
Yeah, it did.
See, I should have
No,
listened
that's
to
all
yours
right.
first.
That's all right. But it was this idea, like God can make His presence known right now, and in a big God voice, He could show up in the clouds and say, "I'm God, and you should listen to me, or you're going to hell." And we would all be like, "Okay, whatever you say, sure." I mean, I would be terrified, but that wouldn't change my heart.
Yeah.
I would be doing it for all the wrong reasons. I'd be doing it
Yeah.
because I don't want to go to hell. That's not a very good motivation. Fear.
Yeah.
So love is a much better motivation,
Hmm.
and Jesus is a picture of that. The thing that probably didn't make it in my sermon is this idea that if I were the devil, my best scheme would be to get everyone to believe there is no hell.
Yeah.
And that's his primary strategy.
Yeah.
And so everyone that's like, there is no hell. I mean, that's the idea. That's the game plan.
Yeah.
And it's so prevalent in our culture
All the way
today.
back, right, in the second page of the Bible, the Garden of Eden, when the serpent says, "You will not surely die."
Right.
He's just saying, yeah, there's no consequences for being your own God, for being in control.
Same thing. Same lie.
No consequences.
Right.
Same lie.
Yeah.
And you ended with, I know you ended with the five brothers and how we're like the five brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So let's end with that here and maybe raise that question again.
Yeah. So I mean, we all have two choices. They had two choices. Am I either going to accept what Jesus has done for me and live with God, or am I going to say, you know what, I'm good. I want to live by myself. And hell is this decision, like where we say, like you said, again and again, we say, God, I'm good. I don't want anything to do with you. And eventually, it breaks God's heart, but He says, okay, and He gives us exactly what we desire. And that's just, it's heartbreaking, but that's the truth. So
I had somebody come up at the end of the service, Kevin, and say, well, what about if, right at the end, someone would say, "Oh, wait." And I said, "Oh, we know what happens because of the thief on the cross."
Amen. Yeah.
It is not God saying, "Ha ha, too late."
Right.
It is God's, this is scripture, it's God's will that none should perish.
Yeah.
He doesn't want anybody to live forever without Him. And so any move in His direction is welcomed and embraced. And so
Nothing can separate us from the love.
nothing can separate us from the love of God. Hey, if you want to go deeper, we have sermon studies every week that are online. Their links should be in the description of this video. And so we hope that you and your friends and family might continue to dig at these topics and see God meet you in your study. We hope He does, and stay connected to Crossroads. See ya.
Have a good one.